Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name's Don Arleth, and it's time for World Talks here on TVP World. University and high school students and citizens of Valjevo, Serbia, gathered today along the Kolubara River for a major protest, marking 6 months since a brutal police crackdown on anti-government protesters shook the city. Organized with a detailed program, the gathering aims to demand accountability for the attacks that left residents beaten and businesses vandalized. This demonstration reflects a broad local effort, uniting current students, alumni, and the wider community. Now joining me to discuss this and other issues related to Serbia is Nikola Ćurčin, Vice President of the Independent Teachers Union of Serbia. Hello, sir, and thank you so much for joining us on World Talks.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, now, so how do these protests go down today, and how are the authorities reacting to them?
Well, these protests are a part of the wider student protest that has been ongoing for more than a year. And it was marked by a walk for several days from different places around Valjevo. And tomorrow there is going to be the main rally in Kragujevac, which is the biggest city in central Serbia. So the authorities have been reacting with, again, a lot of police on the streets, and also at some places they try to organize counter events. But luckily, because of the nonviolent effort by the students, no clashes have happened yet.
Yes, and that's been quite amazing to witness. I was there in Belgrade for those big protests earlier last year, and really scenes of students really quelling any agitators or people trying to escalate. So that was really remarkable to see. Now, what about the accountability of the officers responsible? Will anyone face consequences?
Well, it looks at this point that the government has no will to prosecute anybody, and as they have no will to prosecute anybody that has been responsible for 16 deaths in Novi Sad, which triggered these protests. So yes, people will be held to account, but not by this government, but by the government that will come after this.
Yes, and it seems that all of these protests unite around that common theme of accountability for either government or, government officials or people in power. How long do you think that these protests are going to persist?
Well, the protests will persist until the snap elections that we expect to be later this year. I think this will be the turning point. And I think until this government goes, there will be a huge revolt among the citizens because the current situation is you don't have this legal security, and nobody wants to live in a society that if you are corrupt and if that gives consequences, even death, that nobody answers. This is not a society that people can live in. So I think the protest will continue, and let's say the political and first thing that will be important is the snap elections. That actually is the thing that the students and the public is asking for now more than 6 months.
Right. Now, when it comes to potential political leadership stemming from these protests, I mean, have there been some people identified that could start in these snap elections, if and when they come?
Yes, I think there is a lot of really quality people that will back this this change that is going to come, and but you do not have a direct leader at this point. One of the reasons is because in the past, whenever any leader came up, he was pressured by the government, put through media, torture, even some other things. One of the people that was very prominent was the rector of the faculty, University of Belgrade. He was called to police several times last year. So I think we will have to wait until the actual election are called to see personalities of these people. But this will be university professors. This will be prominent figures from public life, I believe. This because many of them have supported the students and generally are asking for the accountability, as you said.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. So I'd like to go to the Munich Security Conference right now. The European Enlargement Commissioner Marta Kos told Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić that she disagrees with Serbia's recently adopted judicial laws and that this could slow European integration. What laws is she referring to, and does President Vučić even really care?
Well, this is a very, very good question, because this problem did not exist in October when Mrs. von der Leyen came to Serbia. She asked from President Vučić to establish the regulatory officials for media in Serbia. This is called REM, because of the media situation in Serbia, which is terrible, and also asked for election laws to be changed. He didn't do that, actually. Nothing of that was done. He sabotaged these processes. And then he put these new laws that are actually government interference in prosecutors for organized crime. So he invented a new problem. And now I think he's happy because the theme is no longer what he didn't do a couple of months ago, but this new problem that he produced. So he's bargaining with this new problem that he created in past month. Meanwhile, he has created a sort of, we don't have even one-party regime. We have more like a personal, almost feudal regime where everybody, he has to be responsible to him. So he changed a lot of officials, judiciary, excuse me, from the courts. He changed people in the police, in special anti-terrorist unit, and also we had a crackdown on schools. We had more than 100 principals of schools being changed. So he's preparing and putting personal solutions on key places in Serbia that are willing to go against the law when it's necessary, to protect his regime, to go against human rights. And to protect the violation of human rights, as we saw in Valjevo 6 months ago with severe beatings of underage students. So I think that he's happy now with the situation because he's now bargaining for something that he produced. If you understand me what I'm saying.
Yes. And support for the European Union isn't necessarily high amongst these student-led protests. That's not amongst their platform, is it?
I think the platform is obviously EU values. But it is difficult to communicate it in that way because we have a very strong campaign against students, calling them foreign paid velvet revolutionaries and stuff like that. So they need to be very careful in this. But students have drove bikes to Strasbourg. They did ultramarathon and many other things. So I don't think this is the issue, because when you look at the things that these protests are asking for, they're basically EU values, rule of law. So I don't think this is the issue, and I think it's also obvious that the current regime will not bring Serbia to the European Union. Vučić does not want that. If he wanted, he wouldn't act like this. So I think the European officials and European policy need to figure out a way to support institutions and civic institutions, political parties, trade unions, faculties, science institutions, that will actually be the next, from which will come the next government and which will be pro-EU. So this is what I think it's important in the next policy.
Okay,
This one is not hurting Vučić at all. He's actually happy with the current situation.
Okay, well, relating to what Marta Kos said about those laws, she called them a clear setback, and that it'll be analyzed whether Serbia meets the criteria for pre-accession financial aid. Maybe this will cause some backlash in Serbia towards President Vučić.
Of course, this is a good thing to say that these laws are bad, because they are bad. But as I said, this is a political maneuver by Vučić. He actually made the country more authoritarian, and now he will give a little piece of that he gained ground in the last 6 months. So without the opposition actually that is part of the EU larger party assemblies in the EU Parliament, Serbian opposition asked for personal sanctions against some people of the regime, and this was not taken into account. So I think, yes, of course, money is an issue, but it's not the main issue, because still the government and all the people that are working for Vučić are free to do whatever they want in any country of the European Union.
Yes, well, now relating to the Munich Security Conference, Serbian President Vučić said his first impression of the conference was that everyone says that they want peace, but everyone actually wants to defeat the other side, noting that European representatives predict the war in Ukraine will end soon with Russia's defeat. Now, what's the overall sentiment in Serbia concerning the war in Ukraine, and should Russia be defeated in this war of aggression?
Well, the general opinion is that this war is terrible, and we had a lot of refugees from Ukraine, also from Russia, people that are not willing to fight in this Putin's war. So it is obvious that the war needs to end, but it's also obvious that the situation needs to be clear, that it cannot be finished by the defeat of Ukraine. It would be a terrible message throughout the world. And I know the European Union is hurting right now because it has a war in its neighborhood, and also the not so reliable ally anymore in the United States. So it will be difficult, but I think we need to see that not only that the war ends, but also Ukraine becomes a part of Europe, of European Union. This will be something that would really change the game.
Yes, and final question, because another interesting scandal there, the planned Trump-Kushner hotel in Belgrade, set on the former Yugoslav Army General Staff site, and including a luxury hotel and residential components, while it faced protests and legal controversy and is now on hold. How do you see this project affecting Belgrade, and what are the expectations of local residents regarding its future?
Yes, we had a very, yes, this was actually, because this is what this regime does. It tries to buy foreign government support. So this was a way to buy it by giving something that is a public ownership. We had huge protests from the people, but not only that, within the system, we had people that actually stopped this. And we have a criminal, like right now, one of the ministers is under criminal investigation for falsifying paper for this. And this pressure has caused for actually the proposed U.S. investors to back off from this project. which is good. And I think at this point, the U.S. administration is not that favorable to this regime, because one of the things is this scandal, and there have been many other scandals. And also we had one more affair that happened in Serbia. We had 50 tons of marijuana being seized, and it's a big question how much some parts connected to the ruling party are part of the drug trade, and I think the DEA is also involved. So we have so I think the situation with the U.S. government is connected to the investigations that are ongoing not only this year but for several years before. And we don't have a U.S. ambassador in Serbia, and we are expecting actually in March to have a list of people that will go under personal sanctions. This is something that has been said by the American government. So we will see in March how this looks like, who are the people on this list. We also had one more, I won't take too much of your time, but we had a scandal with people actually being trained by Russian foreign services to make problems in Moldavia before the elections. And this was proved that happened on territory of Serbia. This is also a question of international security and needs to be addressed in future months.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be watching them, and hopefully we can discuss that next time. Nikola Ćurčin, Vice President of the Independent Teachers Union of Serbia, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.